good evening, and welcome back to Hellhound's Midnight Spook Show here on the Horror Metal channel. Gonna do another tag video today. This is gonna be the original versus remake tag by Movie Review Time. I was tagged by Horrific Nightmares JM, so thank you, buddy, for tagging me. Check out his channel. Check out Movie Review Time's channel. This should be an interesting video because I think that's a pretty interesting topic. Original versus remake. As you know, this is, if you know me well enough, you'd watch my video, this is going to be a pretty one-sided one. So let's go ahead and get started. There's 27 questions, which are all comparisons, the original and the remake. Then there's a bonus question, so technically 28 questions in all. And this video could easily be hours and hours long, so I could talk about this all day. So let's go and get started. I'll try to kind of breeze through each one. I'll try not to spend too much time on each answer because, again, 28 questions, and there could be a lot of elaboration, and I don't want to be here all day. So let's go and get started. I'll try not to spend too much time on each one. Okay, number one, the Amityville Horror, the 1979 original versus the 2005 remake. Definitely the original. Now, I don't think the remake is one of the worst remakes. I like Ryan Reynolds. He does a pretty good James Brolin impersonation as George Lutz. Again, I don't think it's bad. It just kind of misses the point of the original. I feel like it suffers from the remake syndrome, which is where they have everything thrown in your face, everything spelled out and spoon-fed to you, as opposed to the subtlety and the making you think and using your own imagination that the original had. So that's what I think the movie suffers from. So I'm going to go through the original. I think the original is way better than the remake, though. Again, the remake's not one of the worst ones, and I think it's kind of harmless. It's not as disrespectful or as insulting as some of these other ones on here. So, which brings me to the next one. Number two, Black Christmas, the original 1974 classic, or the 2006 piece of shit abomination that I can't stand. I think it's pretty obvious. I like the original better. I hated the remake. I despised it. I thought it was a nasty, disgusting, ridiculous movie that was vile to the senses and totally missed the point of the original completely. The original was a masterpiece. A huge inspiration of the slasher genre, and it will never be topped. The remake sucked. Alright, question number three. Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, the original 1978 version, or the 2004 remake. Now, this is another situation where I think the remake is actually really good. Dawn of the Dead is one of the better remakes that I've ever seen. I think it's pretty well done and pretty good. I think it's more entertaining than the original, and there's more going on, but I still think the original is way better and far sophisticated and superior in every way. I will say the zombies look better than the remake. The remake obviously had better special effects. Of course, there's a bigger budget, and technology's come further since then. But the original had a better story, better characters. I think it was just better done. And it was the original idea, too. Like, the remake wouldn't even exist without it, so you gotta respect it for that. And the 2004 version, again, that was really good. I hated that it didn't have the bikers. I loved the bikers in the original. I thought that was a huge part of what made the movie so great, and they didn't even reference that. They didn't even have anything like that. There's some badass characters, don't get me wrong, but I wish they would have had like more of the feel of the original. But it's one of the better remakes, so it's pretty close along that. Question number four, Evil Dead, the original 1981 version or the 2013 remake. Again, not one of the worst remakes, but not one of the better ones either. It was okay, but the original's still way better. The remake can't hold a candle to the original. But again, it's not one of the worst ones. It was interesting, some things they did, but I think there was a lot of missed opportunities and a lot of weird things in the plot, like the main girl who was possessed and was contorting her neck and stuff. She becomes the main character and the hero, like the heroine of the movie. She's the final girl. I thought that was stupid, and I didn't really care for all the drug abuse, addiction angle, and the fact that, I don't know, too many changes were made to the mythology with the Book of the Dead and stuff, but the original's way better, so who cares. Question number six, Friday the 13th, 1980, parts 1 through 3. Oh, that's a little different, that's interesting. Versus the 2009 one. Again, I don't think the 2009 version is one of the worst remakes, but there's a lot of things I didn't care for about it. It's flawed. Jason doesn't kidnap people being the main thing, and the reason he's so interesting to me is because all the things he's been through. He's been shot, he's been stabbed, he drowned, he's been burned, he's been electrocuted, he's been dissolved in toxic waste, he's been dismembered, he's been blown to pieces, he's been sent to hell, made into a cyborg, he's gone through all this stuff, and the remake just erases all that and starts from scratch. The Jason in the remake hadn't gone through all those things, so it's not nearly as interesting to me. So I'm definitely going to go with the originals. Again, not one of the worst remakes, but not nearly as good as the original movies, like, at all. Question number 7. This is a no-brainer. Fright Night 1985 versus the 2011 version. Definitely the original. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. I love Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Roddy McDowall, Stephen Jeffries. Everybody's great in that movie. Even Amanda Beers and Jonathan Stark. I adore that movie. I worship that movie. It's so much fun. It gives me such a good, comforting, warm feeling. The original... the remake should have been called something else. Vampire in Vegas, changed all the characters, and it really wasn't a remake. It wasn't similar enough to have to be a remake, but because it's a remake, I don't like it as much. If they called it something else, I would respect it a lot more. Colin Farrell wasn't bad. I hate the actor who played Evil Ed in the remake, McLovin. I can't stand that guy. He's so annoying. He's not funny at all. The remake isn't very good. It's not one of the worst ones, but it's not nearly as good as the original, which blows it out of the water. Okay, number 8, another no-brainer. This one's hilarious. Halloween, the 1978 original classic, or the 2007 exploitation-style Rob Zombie movie. Again, this is the one that suffers from the remake syndrome. Rob Zombie wasn't subtle at all in his remake, and I know it's his own interpretation, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a good interpretation. The reason why Michael Myers is so scary, you don't know what makes him evil. You don't know why he kills people. You don't know, he's unrelatable. He's an unrelatable character with no conscience. Nothing inside. That's what makes him so scary. He's dead inside. He's so mysterious. The original is so suspenseful and dark and in the shadows. The remake, the Rob Zombie version, is very loud and in your face. Subtleties out the window. All kinds of vulgar, overly profane characters who talk in a graphic way and curse like sailors. And everybody's a white trash cardboard cutout. Michael Myers was abused by a abusive stepdad, and he was bullied in school, and he came from a poverty-ridden white trash family. Of course this kid's going to be a serial killer. But I will say I did like Malcolm McDowell. He was a good Dr. Loomis, so not near as good as Donald Pleasance in the original, and I hated Scout Taylor Compton. She wasn't any good, and can't hold a candle to Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. So in short, the original is way better. So far we haven't had any cases where the remake's better in this list, in my opinion. But number 9 will be interesting because it's The Hills Have Eyes, the original 1977 version versus 2006. Again, I think the original is better, but I will say that the 2006 version comes very close. It's the closest that this video has been so far. But the 2006 version follows the original pretty closely. It just adds some new situations. So what I like about it is there's no subtractions, really. It's only additions. They only expanded upon the storyline without taking away things from it. I didn't like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake because there was too many subtractions. They took away too many things I liked about the original and replaced it. The Hills of Eyes remake, there wasn't a lot of replacements. They retold the same story but added their own unique developments and gave it a proper update. I still think the original is better, but I think that The Hills Have Eyes is one of the better remakes out there. I really like it a lot. So definitely a good one, but I still think the original is better. Number 10, The Hitcher 1986 versus The Hitcher 2007. Definitely the original. The remake doesn't stand a chance at all. I love the original. C. Thomas Howell and Rutger Hauer are both great. The new one with Sean Bean wasn't nearly as good. It kind of missed the point. Question number 11, House of Wax 1953 versus 2005. I love the original with Vincent Price. It wins. It's way better than the remake. However, I think the 2005 version isn't bad, and it's actually very underrated. It really got me in the mood to watch another movie like that. It kind of had an 80s slasher feel to it. I love that it was two evil brothers, one deformed, one not. One wore a mask, and it had great special effects. The way it was pretty scary too. The way he killed people and then made wax figures out of them. I mean, that was in the original too. And I actually thought that it was pretty good. Plus, you could see Paris Hilton die, so nothing wrong. Can't go wrong with that. Again, the original's way better, but I think the remake isn't as bad as everybody says. It's actually pretty underrated. One of the better remakes, in my opinion. I probably lost all credibility because I bashed some of the other remakes on here, but hey, I didn't think House of Wax was that bad. But again, not nearly as good as the original with Vincent Price. That's a classic. All right, question number 12. The Vincent Price House of Wax was actually a remake too, believe it or not. Bet you didn't know that. Look it up. Okay, sorry. Question number 12. House on Haunted Hill, 1959 versus 1999. Definitely the original. I didn't like the remake. The only thing I liked about the remake was that the supernatural forces, the ghosts or whatever, were real, and the house really was haunted. In the original, it's left to interpretation most of the movie until the end. It reveals that it was all just like a hoax. I never cared for that. I thought it'd been better if it was actual, ghosts or whatever. But it's done in such an interesting and unique way that it keeps you hooked. So, in short, the original is better, and I didn't care for the remake. Although the supernatural element was real. That was the one thing that was good about it. Question number 13. I Spit on Your Grave, 1978 versus 2010. Now, this is a close one because I think that they're both really good. The original's slightly better, once again. A remake hasn't won yet, has it? But the 2010 one was a little too surreal, was too fantastical. After she escapes, you know, it's about a girl who gets raped and tortured, and then she gets revenge on her captors, which is very satisfying and rewarding to watch. We root for her all the way. We love watching her get revenge against those scumbag lowlifes. And in the remake, again, it was more implausible. It felt like a Saw movie in the last half. All the traps and stuff she set were very implausible. But I will say it was a little more brutal than the original, which is unusual. Because usually the originals tend to be more brutal, like from that movies of that era. You know, the 70s exploitation style. You know, it's hard to compete with that. But the remake was more graphic, but I think that, like, again, it's a very close one, but I think the original wins. The remake was definitely one of the more graphic and brutal remakes, unlike the Last House on the Left remake. Yes, the death scenes were really, really brutal and really rewarding to watch. So again, it's a very close one, but I'll go with the original. Even though, yeah, because the remix is a little too implausible, and I don't know, like she was almost like a ghost. She was almost like a supernatural entity. I feel like the remake, the original, sorry, was a little more practical. But they were both good, so that's a close one there. Then we get to Last House on the Left. Question 14, yeah, Last House on the Left, 1972 versus 2009. Well, the thing about this one is I prefer the original more because I think that, like, the rape and stuff was more brutal, so that way it made it more satisfying when the parents of the victim got their revenge. But in the original, the parents that got revenge, I love David Hess. He was a great villain. He played Crew. He was also in House on the Edge of the Park. He was a great villain. He was the leader of the gang of rapists. And but the parents in the original were terrible actors. They weren't very believable. There's also way too much comic relief and too much campiness, like the two bumbling cops and the woman with their chickens. And it kept taking me out of the movie. There'd be a brutal, horrific, graphic scene that made you go, oh my gosh, 1 minute. And then there was another silly, campy, ridiculous moment the next. And then the parents just weren't really good actors, so it was unplausible. So it's a very close one, but I'm still going to have to give it to the original because it was more brutal. And I feel like the remake kind of held back a little bit. It didn't have as much balls, but it's still pretty disturbing nonetheless. And I will say the last half of the remake was better than the last half of the original. With the revenge done, but the parents were better actors. Monica Potter and Tony Goldwyn were much better than the parents in the original. And what they did to the killers, the rapists, was much better, I think. Though, yeah, the girl didn't die this time, and even the son of the villain, played by David Hess in the original, this time he lived too. So I don't know. I feel like they held back a little bit. It was kind of watered down. But I will say the parents were better in the remake, and the revenge was done better. But I think the first half was done better in the original, and David Hess was a better villain than the new guy. So yeah, in short, it's a very close one, but the original again. Number 15, My Bloody Valentine, 1981 versus 2009. Another very close one. I like the original better than the remake by a hair. I think that was one of the best remakes I've ever seen. Right up there with, like, The Thing and The Fly and The Blob. That was a good remake. It was a good time. It was just a fun roller coaster ride. Seeing that at the movie theater was such a thrill. I loved the 3D. I loved the gore. It was very fun and very engaging, too. The mystery, the whodunit, that had me glued to the screen. And that ping pong between two different people, but then there was the possibility it could be somebody else, and it was like, wow, yeah, I really love the way they did that. It was one of the better remakes. The ending and the killer reveal was kind of a cop-out in some ways. I kind of got sick of that same cliche being used, and I think it made more, but it did make more sense than the reveal of the killer in the original, which to me didn't make any sense at all. Sorry, somebody keeps calling my phone, and that's where I have this list written down. But yeah, it's very close between the original My Bloody Valentine and the remake. The original Canadian 80s slasher was very, very good. It definitely suffers because the gore was cut out, but luckily we have the unrated version on DVD where the gore was put back in, even though those scenes are very obviously, the quality is a huge decline from the rest of the movie. But, you know, again, I prefer the original by a hair, but that's probably the closest it's been in this video so far. I really want a remake to win somewhere along the line, but it hasn't happened yet. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, scanning through the rest of them, I don't think it's going to happen. But let's move on. Yeah, Bloody Valentine, very close one, but I prefer the original barely. Number 16, Night of the Living Dead 1968 versus 1990. Definitely the original George A. Romero classic. I think it's better in every way. Though the remake does have Tony Todd, who's probably just as good as Dwayne Jones. And Judith O'Dea as Barbara is replaced by Patricia Tallman, who's a much more badass heroine who doesn't take any crap from anybody and doesn't just spend the whole movie screaming. So a lot of things were done better in the remake that was done by Tom Savini, who did the effects for Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th and lots of other great movies. But I'm still going to have to go with the original, the black and white version. Though the remake isn't too bad, but I think there's a lot of things that they didn't do very well. Like, whenever I think of the remake, I just think of like people shooting zombies for like an hour and a half. Like, I don't know, like just something was missing. It was missing the magic. The famous twist ending was ruined too. They butchered that in the remake, and I feel like the attacking zombie in the graveyard at the beginning, I feel like that was done very poorly as well. So I'm going to go with the original on that one as well. Okay. Where are we? I lost my place. Okay, next. Question number 17. This is an easy one. Nightmare on Elm Street 1984 versus Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. Say it with me now. The original with Robert Englund. The remake sucked! Okay. The Omen, question number 18. The Omen 1976 versus 2006. Here we have another Gus Van Sant 1998 Psycho on our hands. It was like a shot-for-shot, word-for-word remake of the original, and I thought they could have done something unique, and they had a new opportunity to change the ending, but they didn't. They just did the same thing that the original movie did. It wasn't quite as similar as Psycho, but yeah, it was just unnecessary. Why even remake it if you're not going to bring anything new to the table? So yeah, the Omen remake, not very good. The original wins once again. Question number 19, Poltergeist 1982 versus 2015. The original blows the remake out of the water. It destroys the remake. All the remake did was try to repeat and rehash scenes from the original that watered down, like they had a checklist. Okay, we gotta have the scene with the clown. Okay, we half-assed that. Put it on the checklist. You gotta have the scene where the guy's face melts off, which looked like shit in the remake. It looked so good. What a good effect in the original. And the remake looked like crap. It was terrible. So yeah, that sucked. And then, yeah, the remake sucked. The original wins. Poltergeist is a classic. The remake sucked. Question number 20. Psycho 1960 versus 1998. Say it with me. The original from Alfred Hitchcock. The remake was pointless. It was like word for word. And Vince Vaughn is no Anthony Perkins. Anne Hesh is no Janet Leigh. So, yeah, the remake was pointless. The original was way better. 21, Stepfather 1987 versus 2009. The original wins. The original was a classic, very interesting, very unique, very creative horror film, and the new one was just pathetic. It was just absolutely pathetic. Wow, it was just like a watered-down PG-13 rehash with like no imagination whatsoever. Yeah, pointless. 22, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974 versus 2003. 1974, the original all the way. I've explained that too much, so let's move on. 23, When a Stranger Calls 1979 for 2006. The original, by far. 24, Carrie 1976 versus 2013. The original, by far. 25, The Fly 1958 versus 1986. This is the first time the remake wins! I love the 50s classic The Fly. With Vincent Price, it's great movie. But I'm going to say the remake, but with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, directed by David Cronenberg, is slightly better. So the remake finally wins on one. 26, Prom Night 1980 versus 2008. The original, 1980. Number 27, It 1990 versus 2017. It's a close one. I love the original. I love Tim Curry, but I'm going to say the remake, the new version is better. It's closer to the book and it's much scarier. But I love Tim Curry. But Bill Skarsgård and the kids were great in the new one. I'll always love the 1990 version, as a special place in my heart, but the remake was actually better. Even though it's not really a remake, it's just another book adaptation. And then the bonus question, The Mummy 1932, 1999, or 2017. Well, they don't have the 1959 Hammer one with Peter Cushing and Vincent and Christopher Lee, so I'll go with the 1932 one with Boris Karloff. Alright. That was the original versus remake tag by Movie Review Time. I was tagged by Horrific Nightmares JM. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Hellhound. Thank you for watching the Midnight Spook Show here on the Horror Metal channel.